Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. This is our Real Talk series, so we're really excited to be here today with an amazing panel. Today, we're going to talk about, is your franchise really customer-centric? To introduce you, my name is Raquel, and I run our customer success department at Promo Republic. So this is a topic that I really love because my job is to be as customer-centric as possible. So I'm really excited to be here today with our panel. And for those of you who may not be familiar with what we do, here in our CMO Peer Talks community, we encourage you to join us. We're the #1 community for peer-to-peer engagement in franchise marketing space specifically. So we host a lot of great events like these webinar series. We host conferences. We'll be in person at all IFA events, and we host side events there. Our last one at IFA in Vegas had over 30 marketers all brainstorming together, which was really inspiring to see. So definitely scan this and join right now if you haven't already. And a little bit of context and background to Promo Republic, the company behind our Peer Talks community. We're a local marketing platform that helps franchise brands grow on search and social. And I've seen our customers grow firsthand on this. As I mentioned, I run our customer success. So definitely scan here to learn more. But I know what you're here for today, and it is our amazing conversation all around customer centricity in the franchise world. So I will start off by introducing our lovely panel today. Matt, you're up first. Welcome.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm Matt Jones, and I am a founder here at WebPunch. WebPunch is a tech company that focuses 90% of our businesses in franchising, and we work on helping you get net promoter feedback and generate online reviews and respond to those reviews and kind of optimize listings. And I'm just going to go ahead and apologize if I'm a little awkward on these calls sometimes. So if I talk over anyone, I am just sending my condolences already, but I'm excited to be here.
No, we love it. That's what we're here for. We want a really robust conversation and challenges. So definitely don't apologize. This is exactly what we're here to do today.
Awesome.
Awesome. Next, I would like to introduce Angela. Welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm Angela Pauls. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Buzz Franchise Brands. We are a multi-brand franchising company focused on service brands. So we have Pool Scouts, pool cleaning company, Home Clean Heroes, residential cleaning, British Swim School, swim instruction, and Grand Illuminations, which is a holiday lighting franchise. So I'm responsible for all of our marketing, both on the consumer side of things, franchise development, overall brand management, pretty much you name it. So happy to be here and to talk more about this topic.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to learn from your experience. And last but not least, we have Caitlin. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I am the local marketing director for one of our franchises. Actually, we oversee 3 territories in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I have been with the company for about 10 years doing full-time marketing for them for about 5. And I come from a background where I actually worked in the corporate office for a different company. So I've done small and big businesses, franchises. So I'm just really excited to come on board here and join the conversation because, you know, I think the customer is so important, and I'm really excited to see where we go with this.
Yeah, thank you. We're very excited to learn from you as well. And I think that is a really great starting point to open our conversation with today. So the way today will work is we have 4 key pillar questions that will guide our conversations. And if you have any questions as you're watching this, obviously we have the question and answer box open as well as the chat. So feel free to engage with us. And at the end of today's webinar, we'll have an announcement for the giveaway that we ran for Atlanta's IFA event, Fran CXC. And then we have a few moments for question and answer. So we will do our best to answer them as they come up. But starting off today, we have an easy one, so to speak, to ease us in, which is, how does a perfect customer-centric franchise look? So may seem easy, may not. I think the first step is always this customer journey. We've had a few webinars talking about how to map that out, but I'd love to hear for the franchisors on the call what that means to you and how you start off thinking about your customer and how to build a franchise from there.
So I don't mind starting off here. I think being customer centric looks like a couple different things, right? So I mean, I'm on the ground level. I'm the one that's actually like interacting with all the customers, and our team does a lot of that. But one thing, like as a company as a whole, that I think we do really well is asking the customers, like, what are we doing well? What are we not doing well? How can we grow from here? How can we improve? And that's something that we send out to every one of our customers for every season that we do, because we're in youth sports. So we're constantly looking for feedback and ways to grow. And then communication too on top of it. So, you know, we're going to get negative feedback. It happens. And when we do, we, you know, stay on top of it, be timely about how you respond, be professional about how you respond, and then like really take that feedback to heart, you know, not taking it personally, but how can we change or improve, or maybe even just clarify how a situation has been. Communication is such an important part of being customer centric, because, you know, if you have that conversation with them, and just having like open dialogue, it really helps the customer to feel valued and are going to be more likely to continue to purchase from you in the future.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Angela, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I think that very much ties into, you know, when I think about a perfect customer-centric franchise and how that looks, I think it really boils down to having happy, loyal customers and happy, profitable franchisees. So if our franchisees are constantly thinking about how to give customers the best experience with their brand, you know, that should result in a customer that's getting their needs met, or better yet, exceeded. So, you know, if I'm thinking about going out and cleaning someone's pool, you know, first and foremost, I should make sure that the end result is a really clean pool. That's what they're paying me for. That's why they, you know, hired pool scouts as an example. But if I go a step further and think, well, what else could I do to make a meaningful impact on this customer's experience? Maybe I'll bring in the trash cans while I'm here that are at the end of the driveway and empty, or maybe I straighten up the patio furniture a little bit, but doing something to just go one step further. And then when that customer comes back and sees that their expectations were actually exceeded, then I'm building a longer term relationship, a more loyal customer, which is going to drive up the lifetime value of that customer for the franchisee as they stay on and get service after service after service. And it's also going to create a customer that wants to brag about their experience with Pool Scouts. And as they're hearing their friends who have pools vent about, you know, the awful service provider they have or how much they hate maintaining their pool, they're the ones that are going to be advocating and saying, oh man, well, let me tell you about who I use. And again, for the franchisee, if they're getting more customers through referral customers tend to be the most loyal by nature, and they're certainly the lowest acquisition costs that we could hope for. So both of those kind of increasing the lifetime value and building more of a customer base through referrals can both lead to the franchisee being more profitable as well.
Amen to that. I totally agree. I think when I think of a customer-centric franchise, I think of one that, as they both alluded to, that has amazing customer service. And I guess it's interesting to me because there's like, I went to a conference last summer and a CEO of a sandwich shop got up and he was saying how in his industry, like Chick-fil-A is kind of a gold standard, and they really were trying to take cues from Chick-fil-A, and how they had gone in the back end to do all these things to kind of enhance the customer journey and the customer service they were giving. And the thing that I found a little strange about it is I literally had eaten at that sandwich shop the week before, and like I went in, I found a sandwich on the menu, I ordered it, I paid, and I walked out. Like that, there was nothing, like, at least from my experience, that showed it to be like that interesting or that great of an experience. Apparently they had done things, but it wasn't showing through from the customer standpoint, which at least from my experience. And it just kind of reminded me of like, there was a Business Wire article that I recently read, or no, it was not recently, it was like a year ago or something, but it was like Business Wire had surveyed all these businesses, and like 80% of them considered themselves to deliver an amazing customer experience to their clients. But when they asked the clients like how many businesses they used actually delivered this excellent experience. Like only 11% of them said that they delivered an excellent experience. And another thing I thought was interesting about that was that when they went back to the businesses and they said, there's a big discrepancy, only 77% of those really even cared. So I think a lot of times, like, people think they're doing an amazing job, but to Angela's point, unless you have like metrics, to both of your points, really, like having like that customer feedback that Caitlin was saying, having like real numbers and data, like how many online reviews, what kind of NPS do you have, like those things. I think unless you have like metrics like that, I think you might be doing amazing, but there might be room for improvement. So I think that's why metrics are so important.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And I love the stats from the survey, because even in our interpersonal life, what we're doing, we always think, I think you're doing a better job than maybe what it is in the day-to-day. So creating processes and systems that do facilitate this feedback that you can give and address issues in a timely manner, like you highlighted, Angela, especially the negative ones where that you have the opportunity to show who you are as a brand and how you're responding in maybe not the best situations, from the perception of the customer, really shows you how you can take it to that next level. So we want to see, from our perspective, since we are this local marketing platform, reviews, as you said, Matthew, are a massive part of that. And I think maintaining strong online presence across other channels is that second piece. And then training the employees and the customer facing franchisees to provide this excellent level of service. And Angela, it's what you highlighted as these little details, like taking the trash in and organizing things, because those are things that people will think, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and I need to tell everyone about it. So I absolutely agree. It is thinking how you would like to see things as a customer, and then maybe taking that customer service level into the day-to-day around the feedback loop. So I do think that's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, and with like you're saying, with that like extra mile, exceeding their expectations, having that low cost, especially in marketing atmosphere, having a low cost. I mean, it is literally free for me to go and say, I9 Sports did such a great job with my kid. You need to sign them up, and we'll be on the same team, and all those things. And I mean, if it's a testament to how well you're doing, I think if you're like number one marketing tactic is word of mouth, right? And I would say, I mean, for us, it definitely is. And if you're not measuring that, you have no way of knowing. So, if your customers are happy, it's going to show through on those NPS scores. It's going to show through on the feedback, and just in general, if you're looking at your numbers and you're seeing that people are coming in because other people are talking about how great you are, that's, it's a good rule of measure right there.
Agreed. There's a couple of things too that I was thinking about when I was thinking of like franchise systems that I see that are really engaged with their customers, and two that didn't seem as obvious, but the more I thought about it, I think that they do these things well, is one, they're really transparent, I think. So like they are keeping their customers up to date on what's going on in the industry and the products and services. I think even as you're like getting NPS feedback, you can say, hey, we've heard you. This is what you said, and this is what we're doing to make changes. And I think organizations who are able to like be transparent in what kind of listening to their customers to keep them up to date, that could be like a really great way for them to have their finger more on the pulse of their client. And then another thing that I think that I've seen is there are certain franchises that are really involved in the communities they serve. And I think that helps them stay really engaged with their customer, understand what are the causes and initiatives that are important to those people. And when you are engaged in those same causes, I think it allows you to gain more visibility, obviously, but just have more loyalty and more recognition within the communities you're trying to try and serve. So I think those are a few things that I see franchises that are really engaged with their customers get involved with.
Yeah, and I think both Angela and Caitlin, you have really unique customers in that you have parents. And you're taking it for I9, the kids are their babies, and if they think one way or another, you're going to hear about it. And likewise, within Buzz Brands as well, you do see that. So I think by keeping your customer, the parents, happy, you will hear about it and you start that feedback loop. So I think you really do have to think about that on your day-to-day, which brings us to our second question about kind of your roles and how you think that affects the customer centricity overall. So I would love to hear your thoughts on what you envision the marketing role to play in a customer-centric organization.
Yeah, Raquel, I was going to jump in real quick. I saw there was a question that came in about NPS versus Google reviews, and kind of if customers aren't going to provide both, how do you balance the two programs and kind of what you prioritize? And so I was just going to share the way that we think about that is the information that we collect through NPS. And for those that may not be familiar, NPS stands for Net Promoter Score, and it's one of the metrics that you can use to measure customer satisfaction with a very simple scale, where you determine if people are promoters of your brand, detractors, or passives, which would be neutral, basically. But the way that we think about it is we really use the NPS information internally, more so for our franchisees and as a training opportunity to figure out where are there gaps in the customer service experience. And then obviously we want Google reviews to be the more public facing conversation of someone's experience. But we're better off to get the internal experience first and be able to fix it before someone goes and writes a public facing review for us. So in that sense, I would say we're prioritizing getting NPS responses so that we can see, okay, this person just had a bad experience yesterday with this particular employee who was the one that was involved in their service, you know, teaching their class, cleaning their pool, whatever, cleaning their house, whatever it may be, and recognize trends in the reviews as they come in. Like, do we have a quality problem with this particular aspect of the service we're providing? Or is it an issue with this particular employee? How can we resolve that? And how can we get back to the customer as soon as possible to resolve the situation? And then once we've been able to resolve that information, that's when we'd like to give them an opportunity to, provide a review of our services. So typically we'll ask for NPS feedback first. And then after that process, we'll also ask for the opportunity and encourage our franchisees to, in follow-up calls and things, ask for a Google review or Facebook review or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and making sure that you're responding to your Google reviews, again, in a timely manner as well. It shows people who maybe aren't even that particular customer, but other people who are viewing even a negative comment, it shows that you're responsive and that you're willing to work with them through an issue, even if there is one.
Yeah, and people are often scared of the negative reviews. Like that's a franchisee's worst nightmare because we all take it so personal. We're like, we just want to jump into defense mode of defending our business or our staff or whatever the case may be. But if the way that we try to reframe that with franchisees is if that person didn't say anything and didn't publish that negative review, they would still be thinking that, you just wouldn't know it. So better to know it and be able to fix the problem and reach out to that customer or learn from that experience than to just have these underlying things happening in your customer service experience that you're not aware of.
The other thing with that, Angela, too, is if the overwhelming majority of your reviews are positive and you get 1 or 2 or a very small percentage of negative reviews, those can actually boost the validity of your positive reviews. Because we call them Stepford wives. Sometimes you look at something, you're like, this is just too perfect. They have 1,000 customers and none of them have had a 3 or a 2 or a 1, because everyone knows sometimes you mess up, we're human. Or sometimes there's the customer that you can't please no matter what you do. So I think having a very small percentage of medium/bad reviews can actually make you look more real.
I agree, because then you look at some of the Google reviews and think, oh, they must have bought those. Those are, or they went on fake profiles. They must be reviewing themselves. So I agree with you.
And to your point, Caitlin, I think responding is maybe one of the most undervalued parts of this whole process, because a lot of times an owner will respond to a review, but a lot of time, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but a lot of times you'll see almost the same response every single time, which doesn't seem very sincere.
Right.
And so if you're going to respond, I think it needs to be more than just a check the box kind of thing. It needs to be sincerely trying to engage or thank or whatever you're doing, but in a way that doesn't seem repetitive or robotic.
Yeah, and personalize it. They have their name most of the time on the Google review, so use it, address them by name so that it shows absolutely. It's not a robot responding to this.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy on positive reviews of the hanging high five. Like people sometimes think you don't need to respond to the positive ones because there's no problem. But we think of that like this customer is trying to give you a high five, like thanks for the great service, and you're just leaving them hanging. Like
You're leaving them
get your
hanging.
hand up there. Say we
I love that
appreciate
analogy.
Yeah.
So true.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. No, I think
Oh.
this is, oh, sorry.
We
Was there
could go
another-
on for days, Raquel, but I didn't
I
wanna-
know. I mean, that's what we're here
We
for.
need to
Let's,
answer the question.
and we can see actually this yielded a lot of really interesting responses in the chat as well about people sharing what they're doing as well. So I think this was
Cool.
really valuable conversation, and you can see, for example, Ira Klusendorf agrees on how to be okay with negative reviews and show off your customer service, and people see that there's still someone there to answer. So
Yeah.
I think that is really great because you want to show them what can be done. And my favorite phrase is 8 Mile them. I know you have the hanging high five. I have 8 Mile, where you kind of combat the objection before they can give them back to you and utilize them, because that's that final scene in the 8 Mile movie where he just takes everything that the other rapper has to say about him. And if you're like taking everything negative that was in a review, apologizing for it in a professional way, then there's really nothing left out there for someone to attack you on, because your service is there. And then couple that with what you said about positive reviews, everyone can sprinkle in their response.
I will say this too, like with you're responding to a review, it's important to like when we first started Web Punch, the industry standard for responding was like, if you got a negative review, you wanted to take the conversation offline as soon as possible. So like initially when we started, we wouldn't really address the concerns that were brought up. We would just be like, sorry, you had a bad experience. Can we talk about this offline? But like now, like what we've seen is that if you don't address those things, a lot of people, to Caitlin's point, like who are reading your correspondence with that customer, they'll assume you're guilty. And so it actually, what we do now is we address those concerns. Like we try to get as much background detail as possible if we're working with a franchise owner. But like once we have those details in a kind, and you don't have to do it in a like defensive way, but in a kind of matter of fact way, in our position is that we actually kind of, without going too in the weeds, but we actually get in there and kind of tell the story from your perspective. And again, in a kind, non-defensive way. And what we found is that people have a lot more, I don't know, like they just look at the response and the way that you're interacting with them, and they can kind of tell if you're doing it in a way that's kind and gentle and sometimes like it kind of tells the side of the story that the original review didn't tell. So I think that's like what we do now, and we found it to be pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it shows the customer that they matter, right? Our whole topic today is customer centricity. Yep. So whether you're good, bad, or indifferent, however you feel about us, you matter, and we're going to respond accordingly.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love, just real quick, there's an image that I've seen that I love when it comes to embracing negative reviews. That's from some restaurant that has a sandwich board outside of their shop, and written on it, it says home of the world's worst meatball sub, according to this guy on top. And then they have the one
I've seen
review,
that, so funny.
but it's like turning it around and making it humorous. I think that's great.
That's cute.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And using it for your marketing, which is topic number 2. So obviously we're all in marketing in some capacity. For Caitlin and Angela, you're on the brand side, and for Matthew and I, we're on the brand tech side in the marketing stack. But we'd love to know from your perspective, what role do you play in the customer centricity within the organization, or how do you see marketing having an impact on how customer centric your brand is?
I think it's all about the message, right? So, I mean, we're a company that is out there in the community. We interact a lot with our customers, and even when we're engaging new prospect customers. And our messaging talks about, here is why this product would work for you. Like, for instance, we practice and play on the same day. For most families these days, both parents are working parents, and having a one-stop shop where you don't have practices that you're chasing kids around all week long. You just come one day, you practice, you have your game right after, and that's your whole commitment for the week. And so making sure that your marketing and any messaging that you have for your brand or your franchise, that it does speak directly to the pain points of the customer is going to, it's just going to be really important to make sure that your marketing message reaches the right people and that they can see like you have thought about why this product would be good for customers like them.
I think it can be really helpful when you know your customers really well, or if you've been a customer of, the type of product you have or service you have, that you can really get in the mindset of what those customers are looking for. And to Caitlin's point, just really being able to communicate that applicable message to them. I also think there's a component of this that's really important that ties back to our franchisees and understanding the fact that there's this really heavy overlap between marketing, sales, and customer service. And as marketers, we tend to be held accountable for customer acquisition goals. How many customers are we bringing in through our marketing platforms or programs? But there's this big piece that comes in between bringing in a lead and acquiring a new customer, or generating interest in the brand and then bringing that person to become a customer. And that responsibility involves someone responding to the inquiry that comes in, whether it's through a website, through a phone. It's doing that in a timely manner so that that person isn't waiting and ends up going off to find a competitor or an alternative solution. And it's making sure that that first impression really resonates. So whoever it is that's handling that is well trained to answer questions and is able to build a really strong personal connection with the potential customer. Because first and foremost, if we're not training our franchisees to understand that, their marketing dollars are going to be wasted if we're bringing in a ton of leads and they're not well trained on how to convert them into customers. I know, we have to continue to remind that, because sometimes we'll look at programs and it'll look like, oh, this program's not working. But then because we're not getting the customer numbers we wanted. But then if we dig in a little further, we can say, oh, it's actually generating a lot of phone calls, but these phone calls aren't getting answered, or, whatever the circumstance may be. So I think it's important that in addition to having all the right messaging to bring those leads in, that we have our franchisees and their staff understanding that we have to kind of take the next step in being able to start that relationship building from the point of inquiry through service. That customer experience needs to be strong from day one.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think sometimes like organizations look at marketing as almost like this siloed part of the business. Like it's just one part. But if you think about it, like marketing generally, to Angela's point, like bleeds into awareness, consideration, processing, post-event. So it's kind of part of that whole customer journey. And I think when you start to look at marketing as instead of just like this one part of the business, as part of like an integral part of the strategy that you use to understand, communicate, and like meet the needs of your customers, I think that's when it can become like incredibly powerful. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Caitlin, you were going to say something as well.
I was, but I don't remember what it was off the top of my head.
Sorry to put you on blast.
You're okay.
No worries. But I do agree with absolutely everything that was said here. We want organizations, as Matthew said, to not think of marketing as a silo that's just going to churn out the leads and the revenue eventually, but as something that can play a larger role on the visibility of the brand. And for example, as you said about the sandwich shop, taking a negative and using it in jest, or taking these reviews and bringing this process to the table and growing your presence overall. So I do think really great points were made. I did see a question or a statement earlier about the competing challenge that we have here in terms of priorities, where we said, that at the franchisor level, it's all about NPS and gathering the data, but for franchisees, they're at the forefront of Google. So I'd love it if we could chat a little bit about how we help franchisees ensure that they're delivering this like local customer-centric experience, and how you're able to carry that message across multiple units. Has that been a challenge that you faced at I-9, for example, Caitlin?
I think I actually deal with both sides of it. So we do, like with our NPS, like I said, we reach out to the people who have negative feedback for us. We are always responding to every single Google review that we have. And I think that like open line of communication, like I've said before, is super important. So, I mean, I don't personally struggle with it, but I could see why it would definitely be more like, okay, they think Google, but that's a tongue twister. But then corporate is a little bit more all about the NPS scores. And, I understand that sometimes they get a little bit score hungry. There's so many golden nuggets inside Google reviews and NPS scores, and the feedback that you get from both of them. I mean, they just really should work in tandem when it comes to your marketing plan and your messaging and your communication and your customers in general. You may not like to hear that there are certain aspects of your product or your service that they don't like, but it is really a good growth opportunity for you to look at it and say, how can I make this perform better? And how can I make this customer experience better, so that we're getting better word of mouth, so that we're getting more people signing up because they're hearing from other people how great we are, and things like that.
I think there's probably some perspective that comes into play too, with like their Google reviews are the things their friends are seeing. There's maybe a little bit of an ego component to that versus NPS, which can potentially be a little bit more of a long play if you're catching issues that you need to take some time to resolve. But helping them understand the difference between the two and the value, and maybe showing some case study examples of people who have gotten valuable feedback through NPS, and the value of using your NPS scores as a source for Google reviews. So really using your promoters from NPS as an audience to go back to and say, hey, I'm so happy to hear that you've been thrilled with your experience. We are a local business. It takes customers like you to really help us grow. We would love it if you would share your experience on Google. Here's exactly how you can do that, and make it as easy as possible for them as well. And then I would also just kind of sub-comment, there could be times where you really do need to prioritize Google reviews. If, for example, you have a location that's struggling and they have a very low score on Google, then yeah, I think that would be an appropriate time to say, you know what, let's really put a focus on Google reviews and getting some positive traction to kind of balance that out. But I think all things considered, it's more about helping them understand the value of NPS, which may not be as it may be a little bit newer to them than something like Google, which they've been experiencing as from the customer side of things for many years.
Yeah, I agree with that, Angela. I think the tricky thing sometimes with franchisees is trying to help them understand the value of like a net promoter score, is sometimes they feel like it's a report card, and to some degree it is, but I think even more than that, it's one thing I think that's underutilized in our industry is like closing the loop on the feedback you get. So the way I say it is like feedback is really, it's only valuable if you're going to take action to make things better and improve the process. Otherwise, it's just kind of something you read. And I think a lot of people kind of look through it, they scan through it, and they're on to the next task. But I think where the real power from feedback comes is when you're actually taking action to do that. And so if you're reading it and then you're trying to like, with sometimes it's humbling, right? But if you're looking at it as an opportunity to grow and figuring out where weak points are in that customer journey and trying to like come up with concrete ways to improve that, I think that's the real power of NPS. And then survey again to see if the changes you've made have actually made a difference in that customer's experience. So I think that's where like the real power comes in. And also to Angela's point, like if you can catch negative before it goes online, how great is that? Like that's an amazing opportunity. And in fact, like a lot of times, not a lot, sometimes you can turn that frown upside down and make someone who maybe there was a communication issue or perhaps just an understanding of what expectations needed to be, And once that's settled, a lot of times, they'll actually think you're amazing again. And that's a great opportunity to ask them for a review or whatever after that.
Absolutely. I would love to hear from either Angela or Caitlin, or is there anything that you train new franchisees when they come on board to perhaps give a coach or a mentor approach on how to be customer centric, or little things that are unique to your brands that, like you said, fixing the furniture or bringing the garbage bins in, that are like little things that go a long way? Because, sometimes in a new business or a new franchisee owner, you're thinking, okay, there's a million things that I have to do, but, the customer you're really excited about having them. So how do you teach someone coming on board to be customer centric?
Mhm. Yeah, we've done this through building out customer experience statements that we really are kind of holding ourselves accountable to. And in a lot of cases with the franchisees, it's about training the franchisees, but it's also sort of a train the trainer, because in a lot of cases, it's about our franchisees needing to push that message down and holding their staff accountable. And so we have built out marketing materials that are things like brochures they give their staff in training, or posters they have on the wall in their offices that remind people of that, videos that give examples of why it's important for our customers and how to think about how the customer may be thinking, so we try to provide those sorts of marketing materials that are really more in the support of getting everybody on board together with this sort of approach. And then we also use incentives through the metrics that we have. So if we have, for example, a technician or an instructor or one of our team members who is generating really high NPS scores consistently and is really being a great example of the customer experience we're trying to provide, maybe they get a prize or a bonus, or the person with the most promoters or the highest promoter score gets entered into a drawing for something. There's a bunch of different kind of ways that you can take that, but I think showing them how important it is to the brand and being able to quantify that through some of these metrics, and not just hold those metrics to ourselves, but actually share it with them as well, can be meaningful.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I have a little bit of a different experience because we're on the franchisee level. So I don't personally train different franchisees with their new business, but we are very team-oriented companies. So we have a committee that is put together that they are always brainstorming, and it's rotating. So it's not the same people every year, and everybody gets a chance to serve on it. And there's all this idea sharing and brainstorming, and that's kind of how we grow in the areas that we need to grow in. And everybody, even though if you're not on the committee, you still have an opportunity to offer feedback. And then that team is kind of what puts the wheels in motion there. But I will say, to your point about the NPS scores and engaging your employees with that, we definitely incentivize our site managers or our staff members to get good scores. We don't do they don't buy scores or anything like that, but hey, offer the best experience that you can, and then communicate with us if there's something that has gone wrong that we need to take care of at the field. That we have multiple venues going at every time, and if we don't know that there's something, we can't deal with it in a timely manner, it's going to end up on our Google reviews. It just kind of all trickles down. So, and rewarding those team members who are just doing an exceptional job and really embodying what our business model is and how customer-centric we are. It keeps them engaged. And honestly, I think most of the people, hiring good people is a super important part of that as well. But even if we didn't incentivize, I think a lot of our employees would still offer that kind of premium experience for our customers. But you got to have people who are passionate about what you are offering as well. It's really important. I mean, we work with kids. If you don't like kids or sports, you probably shouldn't be on our fields or courts, right? So, I think that it's a team effort, and we're all going to grow together better if we're doing idea sharing and, just from a training perspective, if you can, and you have the ability to offer things like the videos or any kind of on-site training, one-on-one training, that kind of thing, your company is only going to benefit from it the more you educate people, including your own staff members.
Yep, really well said. I absolutely agree with that. I think to round out today, we talked a lot about reviews, management, NPS versus Google, how you can set up a customer-centric organization from marketing to the franchisee level. But I'd love to hear a little bit behind the scenes of what tech stacks that you have assisting you in your day-to-day. And I know, Matthew, obviously you deal in this on a daily basis at WebPunch. So I'd love to learn about what technology that you see that can help make this customer centricity a lot easier for franchises.
So the first thing I'll say is, did you guys see the 60 Minutes thing on AI last week? I'm sure a lot of you did. No? Okay. AI, for those of you who aren't kind of getting involved with it, I would highly recommend that you at least check out Bard or Chat GPT or whatever. Yeah. There's a few platforms out there. We're on the cusp of some really exciting things. I know there's a tendency sometimes to look at the capabilities with a little bit of shock and a little unsettling at times. But with WebPunch right now, we're going through, like, NPS is one thing we're talking about, and like kind of taking a hammer to a lot of our old processes. So if you're a customer of ours, stay tuned. But for example, I think like the days of a static survey, or it's almost like it's becoming old fashioned. And so, for example, if you're in home services and we've surveyed your client and they've had a negative experience, let's say the pool example, you left your tools by the pool and you didn't clean up, and that person complains about it and they leave you a 3 out of 10. The software now with AI will recognize, hey, they weren't happy, and the reason they weren't happy is because it was left dirty. It will say, we're sorry. The next thing that customer sees when they're taking the survey is, I'm sorry that the pool wasn't left in a clean manner. Here is our schedule. It'll literally pop up the schedule of the person who was in charge. Let's say, can we come back and schedule a time to fix this for you? So I think that reactivity and the way that surveys will understand what a person is saying and then be able to react in a way that hopefully might even address the problem right there is something that obviously we're working on right now. But AI is going to change the game. And I think all of the software that we're using, like the analytics for everyone, are going to be much more meaningful. And I think it's really an exciting time to be on the forefront of this. I think you're going to be able to sense, like in the NPS world, you're going to be able to understand sentiment a lot more than you have in the past. So there's some really exciting things. I think obviously you've got to have social media monitoring to be able to understand when people are talking about you. I think AI is going to have a lot of personalization that we are going to see that are really exciting. And obviously you've got to have some sort of feedback. You've got to have some sort of way to generate positive reviews. You've got to have a way to respond to reviews at scale. So all of these play into AI and technology, but if those aren't things you have, I would definitely look into getting them. But I think it's an exciting time for all of us.
And I would just add, I think, in addition to all the, technology that's going to change and evolve over the course of the next 3 months, 6 months, year, I think just making sure some of the basics, like you've got multiple lines of communication for the customer and you're willing to speak with them through whichever method is their preferred method. So, email, phone, text, whatever that may be, got options and lines of communication open. And then I think I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with all the AI stuff. It's a little bit overwhelming, but fascinating at the same time. But I also think there is a risk in jumping in too quickly with some of that and making sure we don't lose the human component of things either. So making sure that doesn't mean your franchisees are never going to have to speak with another customer or call a customer. It's going to mean those human touches are going to be even more valuable because so many people or businesses are going to be moving, full automation, everything, which while I think there's going to be a lot of benefits to what AI provides. I think we just want to make sure we're not totally losing that human element.
Yeah,
I think
AI
to your point, I think it'll be even more valuable. I think companies who ignore relationship building will do so at their peril, because it will be kind of special now, because there's just so much automation. So I think I totally agree.
I love that you're talking about, Matt, the automation about pulling out words from their actual feedback and offering an automatic solution. We live in this age where everything is instant gratification. We want something instantly. If we have to wait 30 seconds to get a response from somebody, it's been too long, which is unfair. I mean, because we're human, right? But having that ability, but it is, Angela, to your point, also something that makes me a little bit nervous. I have just dabbled in ChatGPT a little bit just to see what it could do. And I think it's important to also keep in mind not to just copy and paste. Like, you have to really also take a look at the stuff that's automated from AI, and make sure that it is accurate to your business, to your messaging, to your brand, making sure there's appropriate keywords in there when you're doing that. And our company, we haven't started it yet, but we just decided there's a little beta group that I'm part of. We're going to be taking on a new kind of like Google Ads and PPC, and there's a lot of AI involved in this company. I can't speak to, I don't want to say it because I don't have any experience with it yet, because we're just about to roll it out. But I just love that it's actually going to follow a customer through a journey. And like, they've landed on, let's say, flag football on our website. So now we're going to supply them with more information, because that's what they really want information on. They don't want to hear, I mean, not that that's the only thing that we're going to provide them with, but we're going to see what they really value, what they're looking for the most. And we're going to be able to provide them with messaging that's more tailored to their wants and their needs, and offer a better, more automatic experience for them.
Yeah, I think we're going to be able to be a lot smarter, a lot more efficiently with everything that's going to evolve. But I love that nothing is ever going to replace going out there and shaking hands and kissing babies in the community. I mean, that's what we really try to, remind our franchisees. It's the same thing with digital marketing. Digital marketing is extremely powerful, and we want all of our locations to have that component of their marketing plan, but they still need to go out and represent their business and build relationships and partnerships and all those local marketing components.
Yeah, there's such a personal aspect to that too. I mean, the owners of our franchises, they're a married couple, and he just texted me the other day and said, I was out at getting dinner with my family, and somebody approached me and said, "Hey, you're the I-9 guy," and then started this whole conversation about, hey, how can we partner and stuff. And so, you don't think of a brand or a franchise as a person, but these people like really have invested in who the people are that own the company. So like, don't sell yourself short if you are the franchise owner, that it really, they tie you to that brand as well. And so if you're offering the good customer service, the community is going to see you as that, and include you as part of their community. And if they're having a positive experience, and I mean, that personal touch is just, don't let that get lost, because so much can be automated on the digital side soon.
And I think too, like, you can use technology to aid you in being more personal, right? So like, if you have 1 million clients, sometimes it's hard to remember every detail about who that client is, what's important to them. So use your CRM, like have a CRM that you're inputting. Like, we literally have contests at WebPunch where we will see who can input the most personal details. We don't get creepy about it, but a lot of details, because we want any other team member to have some idea of who this person is. So if they ever have to talk with that person and it's not their customer service rep or whatever, they can go and understand that. And I think you can make it doesn't have to be this or that. Like, I think the companies who win will be the ones who use technology, automation, and also a ton of personalization and baby kissing, as Angela said. So you can marry the two, you're gonna be great.
Right. And don't get too confident that you're going to remember every detail about every person that you're going to meet either. Utilize the technology that, at the click of a button, you can pull up somebody's information and say, oh, last season you coached. Did you have a great season? You want to come back and coach with us? It just don't don't forget that aspect of it. Sometimes we get too busy and think, oh, I'll definitely remember that, but it's just as easy as taking 3 seconds to type it up and put it in there, in their like customer cards, so that you can go back and whether you remember or not, they're going to think you remember. Or if somebody else jumps in and says, oh, last time you talked to Caitlin and this is what happened. I think it helps the customer not to have to repeat themselves, and they feel valued. And, I think it's a great way to use the CRM tool.
Absolutely. I think today we dove in quite a bit to customer centricity, how we can stand this up with technology and from using the tools that we have at our disposal at the franchisor level, like reviews and NPS, and how to really focus on the customer, starting from the customer journey and doing these little touches, as you said, and keeping the human element there. If you have any questions for any of our panelists, now is the time to write them in the chat box. So we will be moving on to our question and answer session in a moment. So please bring your questions. We have an amazing panel. But first, I have a really exciting surprise part of the webinar. If you're a part of our CMO Peer Talks community, you've seen that we've been running a contest to bring a special winner to Fran CXC totally on Promo Republic. So I actually think the winner is here. I saw maybe one question asked, but I did want to congratulate Lindsay Simpson. You are the winner of a free ticket from Athletic Republic. We're really excited about this. Yes, exactly. So we'll see you in Atlanta. We'll be there. And I hope everyone on this call will be as well. I love this response.
I think she's excited.
Yeah, I love it. So a great question from Diane is, what did you need to do? So we held in our CMO Peer Talks community a contest where if you shared us and shared some posts and feedback, you're able to be chosen to win. So this was completely random. We entered it into like a randomizer for everyone who entered. So Diane, we will be tagging you in the next giveaway that we do. But on that same vein, we have our next webinar coming up on the events. So feel free to scan this again, screenshot, and stay tuned. So this is all going to be about building a customer-centric business through Promo Republic and taking a lot of the tidbits that discussed today and putting it into practice, which is really going to be a really great one. And I will be running that too. Not to toot my own horn. But for the amazing speakers today, again, why you came here, we have everyone's LinkedIns. So again, keeping use of the QR codes. So scan away. I want to personally thank all of you for joining. We had really a great group of perspectives from the review and tech-centric side from you, Matthew, to the franchisee side from you, Caitlin, and from the franchisor side across several brands from Angela. So I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. It was fun.
Of course. Before we sign off today, I did want to pause and see if there were any other questions that were left unsaid or unasked. Now is your time. We have about a few minutes to go. Otherwise, if I don't see anything coming through the chat, I will thank you all for your time. I don't think there's anything coming in, but again, I'll go back to the screen. Take the screenshots. Don't be shy. I think the ethos that we preach within our Peer Talks community is that you're able to go peer-to-peer and ask questions directly. So I know that anyone on this screen would be happy for you to go to them directly and ask your questions if you don't want it in this one. Ooh, Lindsay, I have a great question from you. Does anyone successfully use video testimonials in your marketing? And if so, examples? So this is a great question. So I'd love to hear from maybe Caitlin or Angela if you've utilized video testimonials.
Yeah, I would say we are definitely trying to build more and more video content in general, and both on the franchise recruitment side of things, looking to bring on new franchisees and share testimonials of existing franchisees, as well as the customer side of things. And I would say we have done a certain amount of videos that I wouldn't necessarily say are direct customer testimonials, but they are sharing the customer experience. So if I take, for example, British Swim School, we develop a lot of video content to show what a lesson looks like, show the kids, in the classes, the types of things that they're learning, share that information. We do also do the occasional customer testimonial that is usually kind of built into a more formal kind of promo video, but I would say it's about like kind of constantly sharing stuff on social to reinforce what being a customer looks like. And then with our other brands like Pool Scouts and Home Clean Heroes, where we don't have as much face-to-face interaction with the customers, we do love to pull opportunities for customer testimonials, but we don't always have that in the sense of videos. A lot of that comes through sharing communications through reviews and things of that nature. I would love to do more of the customer facing stuff with those brands as well.
Yeah, we use ours primarily now as a marketing campaign on social. So we have like 30-second and I think even as short as 15-second videos. Some with like our CEO is on there, or we have employees, coaches, because our coaches are volunteer parents, and just in general parents that come on to a video and will talk about their experience with I9 Sports. I think what's important if you're going to be putting a video out too, especially because so much of the content on social media and YouTube and whatever's out there, a lot of people absorb their content through video, but sometimes you're not in a place like, you're in the hair salon or you're out of the grocery store and you're watching this video and you don't want to turn the volume up because it'll disturb people around you. Don't underutilize the captions, because people will actually read the videos as they're going on. So it's always good to make sure that that's a component, may not even think about it, but it's easy. I think even Facebook will auto-generate captions. Make sure that they're spelled correctly, go through and take the time to make sure everything is grammatically correct and that it doesn't look unprofessional. But, there's been some opportunity too. I've been really looking a little bit more into Reels and how it can really be something which is like the kind of like TikTok for Facebook. We don't personally use TikTok in our company, but Facebook has an option that spills over into Instagram as well, called Reels. And you could even have an opportunity to like take video testimonials of people, making sure that you have a good background, that it makes sense. Like for us, we're youth sports. So maybe they're at a field or a court. You don't have a trash can in the background. You can hear them clearly, things like that. If you're going to put it out, make sure that it actually looks good. But, you could absolutely put something like that up and, and promote it that way. You can promote it on your page and then boost it. So there's definitely opportunity out there for video. And I think a lot of people will take in content that is video as long as it's relevant to them.
I think Diane brought a great point about how she takes in the video, going to your point about caption, that she watches it with music playing in the background or, on the way to work or something like that. So you are reading the captions and doing that. So that is a really important part of how we're consuming video differently now. And I think it's also generational. A lot of people don't have sound on Instagram stories, for example, or on social media in general, unless they find something that is intriguing that captures their interest to do that. So Diane's point is really, really great about how you're consuming video and thinking about that with your customer centricity, to your point, Caitlin. So that was our only question. We're right at time. So again, thank you to our amazing panelists. It was such a productive conversation, and I loved having each of you here. I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you for joining.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.